What is going on, fantasy people? It is your boy John with the catch alongside my co-host Steven. What's poppin', man? What's going on today?
Dude, I've been looking back at some of the mock drafts I've done recently, deviated from my running back heavy approach. I'm ready to get back to my bread and butter, baby.
RB heavy it is after going
Yep.
super receiver heavy
Oh my
one of
gosh.
these past mock drafts we did together. So we have got a 12-man league going here. We've got just PPR in terms of scoring format. I have got the fourth overall selection, and Steven is picking from selection number 7. So I think we're both super stoked to hop right into this. If this is helpful, entertaining, of any value to you whatsoever, please go ahead and smash that like button down below, as well as go and subscribe to the channel for more future content like this, and go ahead and drop a comment down below with how you think we do throughout this draft as well. So, RB heavy, who are you targeting with that seventh selection? Kind of a murky area.
It for sure is, John. And I would say this. I mean, I think there is a chance that Nick Chubb sitting there, Aaron Jones as well. If there is somehow Zeke Elliott falls to me, that's where I'll be taking him. But outside of Zeke, I think Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, those are my guys right there. And then hopefully I'll get the chance to pair him with either Antonio Gibson or Najee Harris.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to be selecting a running back with this fourth overall selection, but I am going to try and go a little receiver heavy after that and see. I think if you have one of these top four picks, it's probably the most beneficial route to go. You at least know you have one of the best four running backs in fantasy football, as well as one of the best four players in fantasy football. So I'm going with Kamara all day. I think he's going to have a monster year. With the departure of Drew Brees out of that New Orleans offense, as we see Derrick Henry going number 2 in this draft, and Dalvin Cook right before my selection of Kamara, and then we've got Zeke at number 5 and Aaron Jones at number 6. Now, Steven has a decision to make here.
Yeah, I mean, you see Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley. It looks like the recent injury news surrounding both of them and their respective teams have been kind of baked in, so they're still available. I got my guy Nick Chubb. I'm happy
Yeah,
with that.
yeah, I like the selection. The least amount of question marks around those three players. So
Yeah,
if Nick Chubb's not sitting there, well, I guess who would you take? Aaron Jones?
yeah, but I mean, did Aaron? I think I had gone, but I
Well, that's what I'm
mean,
saying. If
yeah,
because obviously if Nick Chubb was taken and Aaron Jones was taken, is that your next selection?
yeah, it is. I will say though, I think both of us are rising on Antonio Gibson.
Yeah.
This is a guy who did see 11 touchdowns, as you stated before, but he saw limited touches last year, so I think they're going to make him more and more bell cow back, and I see that going up actually.
Yeah. 11 touchdowns last year. He had
Yeah,
a monster year, and I think that Washington football team offense is going to be a lot better than it was last year. As we've
they've been
seen,
looking good.
Calvin Ridley with the eighth overall selection, the first receiver off the board, followed by Jonathan Taylor, and then Travis Kelsey, first tight end off the board. There's your guy, Calvin Ridley.
I love Calvin. And actually, I was watching an interview with him yesterday on NFL Network talking about how Arthur Smith has brought in a very physical presence to this offense, a lot of strength and conditioning to these guys. So I expect Calvin Ridley to come in stronger and in the best shape he ever has, along with the rest of this Atlanta offense. So I think it could
Yeah.
be a good team.
Don't sleep on my guy, Russell Gage. I think he's going to have a really good year this year. Um,
Mm-hmm.
as we've seen Antonio Gibson be selected 11th overall, kind of coincidental, those 11 rushing touchdowns last year, pick 11. So Saquon Barkley dropping the pick 12. I will say, around pick 12, I do think Saquon Barkley is a very good value. At that point, I do believe that he's definitely worth taking. Even, if there's no other RBs on the board around pick 10, but definitely by pick 12, and we see, who is this? Joel L. Pairing him with Devontae Adams. So if you can pair Saquon with a sure receiver like a Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, Yeah, even a Calvin Ridley or a Tyreek Hill, it's
Who
still
is
great.
Tyreek Hill still available?
He
That's
is.
wild. That's
Yeah,
wild.
him and Diggs are both available. Well, there goes Hill at 15. I mean, Tyreek Hill
Yeah,
at 15 in a PPR league is a great value.
that's
So,
a steal.
and as we see, Stephon Diggs now selected with that 16th overall pick. So, who are you eyeing here with this 18th selection?
Yeah, so again, I already had noted on Najee Harris. Love him, but we got Joe Mixon there too, who I also love because of his insane volume. The guy averaged like 23 touches when healthy. This is going to be a part of a Cincinnati Bengals offense that is going to be constantly trying to score at late games because their defense is atrocious. Like it's going to be nonstop firepower from this offense, and I want a piece of it. And I
It's
get the
like,
chance for
yeah,
both.
yeah.
So let me ask you. I know who I'm picking here, but who would you have taken here between the two of them?
I like the value of both Joe Mixon and Najee Harris here, but I do think personally I'm leaning more towards Najee Harris.
That's where I'm going to. And just because you're a part of, I think, a better team.
Sure.
Pittsburgh, I think, does offer you a better overall offense.
So let's see here. You already know who I'm picking. The man you're representing today, uh, with that jersey, with the lime green. I know, and I hate to be boring. You guys have seen me take DK in a lot of mock drafts, but that's my guy. I do like the value of AJ Brown, Terry McLaurin, even Allen Robinson here, and I think Hopkins is an excellent selection as well. But I'm a little worried that D Hop might not be on the field week one. So we'll kind of continue to monitor that offseason story. I don't know what to
Yeah.
say about it. So, but in terms of the receivers, there, my personal selection is going to be DK, and that's just who I'm rolling with. So, like I say a lot on this channel, follow your gut. Uh, those players that you believe are going to have the best years, and the players that you want to kind of see show up every Sunday, go ahead and select them. So. I am kind of targeting the receiver position in this mock draft, so I'm happy with the selection. I think I'm going to get another good receiver with this number 28 overall
Mm-hmm.
pick
You
coming up
definitely
too.
will.
Yeah,
Yeah, I want to kick a question out to the subscribers. Between AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, who are you higher on? Because I think AJ Brown has just jacked up the draft boards, and I think DK Metcalf is a better value, and the fact that he's paired with Russell Wilson is so awesome to me. But a lot of people like AJ more, so I'm interested to see what the subscribers think.
yeah, and I think kind of the interesting thing as we see Patty Mahomes being picked with that 26th overall selection right after Josh Jacobs. The offense in Seattle is already kind of opened up with Tyler Lockett there. Um, and I'm going to go ahead. We'll come back to that. I'm going to kind of trust my gut once again. I'm going to pick Keenan Allen, who I think is
Love
going to
that.
have a great year with Justin Herbert in his second year. But going back to the Seattle Seahawks, their offense is already opened up, right? And I think kind of the difference with AJ Brown and what people are very excited about is that I think with the addition of Julio Jones, with the run game already in place, that offense is going to potentially open up a little bit more this year, and AJ Brown's going to be the main
Yeah,
beneficiary out of that. Because who are you going to cover on that field? You're going to cover Julio, or you're going to cover
it's gonna
AJ?
be
You can't.
tough.
It's going to be tough. Some teams aren't going to be able to do both at all times. So I see
It's a
you.
Super Bowl type of team for sure.
Yeah.
I took David Montgomery with my pick. Kind of a sticking to the bread and butter approach. Get three running backs straight out the gate.
Yeah.
This kind of really solidifies my team going forward to where I can maybe if I want to go out and reach for a tight end or a receiver, I can. But yeah, love my first three picks.
Yeah, great first three picks. That definitely rings true to how you draft. I think how both of us traditionally draft. So, uh, I'm looking at those three players, and I'm sure you're pretty happy. So, as we see
Mm-hmm.
C.D. Lamb as well as Chris Godwin off the board, and now I'm starting to think about this 45th overall selection. And if I want one more receiver, if I want a tight end, if I want a quarterback, if I need to go ahead and snag a running back, uh, I will say, the receiver heavy, whether you end up drafting two receivers or three receivers, it's always a little scary for me. So
Yeah.
I would consider two receivers heavy. I would like to see in the comments down below what you guys consider wide receiver heavy. We saw Steven draft four
Or
receivers in a row in a mock draft. You know, I would say two is considered heavy because especially in a 12-man league, maybe in a 10-man league, three receivers are considered heavy, but I don't think I can afford to draft a third receiver at the moment, and I'm very happy with these first two receivers I've gotten.
Mhm.
So I'm starting to look at the running backs, and I can. I mean, I'm a pretty sweaty guy, but I can feel the sweat building. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah. I mean, Chris Carson's still available.
yeah,
I
that's the
think we're
best
both
value
high on
there.
that guy. Rashawn Penny, I think we're going to drop a video of him soon about how this guy actually could be going under the radar a little bit. Could be
Yeah,
taken away from Chris Carson's touches, apparently.
yeah.
You know, one guy that I want to kind of just catch a radar on, Mark Andrews, tight end with the Baltimore Ravens. What do you think about this guy? I think he's obviously the number one threat in Baltimore at receiver.
I think it's definitely the number one red zone threat without a doubt. You know, over the years, Lamar has proven that he loves Mark Andrews in the red zone. But Mark Andrews is a great player. He's a great tight end. I personally think that there's two or three tight ends who present similar value that you can get a little bit later. So I will let Mark Andrews be selected before I pick a tight end, more than likely. But it's not a knock on Mark Andrews, and if he slides or if he's available at certain points, he's definitely a player that I believe in targeting with
Mhm.
with no doubt. I mean, he's like I said, he's mainly going to be a red zone threat, but he still had over 700 receiving yards last year. He's definitely one of the best tight ends in the league, and a little under the radar. Still kind of fall into that number four, number five spot, depending on how you look at it. But I think that's
He's
pretty
got the
appropriate.
he's got the best fantasy projection in terms of points next season. He's now in the he's available for me right now if I want him, and that's actually kind of where I'm looking because when I look at these receivers, I love the depth at that position. And so I think I am going to go out and take a tight end to shore that up
Yeah, I
and
like
take
it.
Mark Andrews right here and really hope that some of the receivers I like fall to me.
Yeah, I think with the RB heavy strategy, I think it's really okay to go ahead and also select a tight end and or a quarterback relatively early. So I like the selection a lot.
Yeah, I did.
There are
Uh,
there's some really good players available.
there is.
This is a scary 15 seconds. Uh, but you know what? For the sake of mock drafting, I'm going receiver heavy. I'm picking a future Hall of
Go
Famer. I'm picking Julio Jones. In my opinion, we already know we have one of the best running backs in the league on this team to lead our RB position. Why not go ahead and just go full force and go ahead and shore up those receivers and kind of make them the powerhouse part of this team. I do think Julio is going to have a good year as long as he can stay healthy. I do like the selection of DJ Moore right after Julio. DJ Moore was the other person at that receiver position I
I
was
was
looking
eyeing
at.
him too. I was eyeing
Outside
him
of,
too.
I think Tyler Lockett is a fantastic value here, but I don't want two receivers of the same team, unless it's like a Travis Kelsey and Tyreek Hill, you know. The other guy I'd be looking at here would have been Adam Thielen, just with what we know he can do in the red zone. Definitely a lot more value there in terms of standard leagues, but
Mhm.
I like the selection of Julio Jones. I'm good with it, and I'm gonna move right
Dude,
along.
and you're put in a cool position as well because either you can wait till later rounds to get just kind of like a good solid floor player like a David Johnson or a Mike Davis at running back to kind of pair with Alvin Kamara, or you can use your upcoming pick to go after a guy like Kareem Hunt if he's still available, a PPR monster to
Yeah.
again pair up with Kamara. So you're kind of in a nice spot too. It allows you to, if you take that early guy at running back, you can really go wide receiver heavy.
So Steven is huge on Kareem Hunt this coming
Mhm.
year. So I want to know in the comments down below what you guys think about Kareem Hunt. How much, realistically, how many touches is he going to see? Is he relying on a Nick Chubb injury? Or how the Browns going to utilize? I'm interested to get some thoughts on that. So this may surprise you, it might not, but I'm going QB. I'm shoring up the position. I'm getting a stud. getting the top, last player available of that top tier elite QB. In my opinion, at least, I'm going to go ahead. I select Kyler Murray here. As we see Dan take TJ Hawkinson, someone who I think has very similar value this year to that of Mark Andrews, who you went out and selected a little bit earlier. And we
Mhm.
now see your selection coming up with the 55th overall pick, right after Frankie with number 54.
Yeah, and I'm entering this receiving tier where everybody's, oh, he took the one guy I was targeting. I am in love with Brandon Ayuk this season. Another guy that I do really like, Deontay Johnson. He had 163 target pace last season. If this guy can stay healthy through the full season next year, yeah, I think this is a guy who can really blow up. 216 fantasy points projected. I'll take him if it's a PPR league or a half PPR league because I think this guy is a really solid forward play every single week.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a good selection, and I think you got a number one receiver. I know that's a very, very crowded, receiver room, obviously, but I still feel like Deontay Johnson is the number one receiver there, in my
He is.
personal opinion. I
Mhm.
feel like uh, Juju's the red zone guy. And Chase Claypool is that X factor, that kind of stretch the field, type of player. And obviously, they're all going to get targets. I, I mean, that has to be the best receiver room in the NFL. I mean, would you agree?
It's definitely the deepest. I do think that, there's some teams that are rivaling it. I mean, we could see Cincinnati's in the future end up
Sure,
being one of the best too, but you got
sure.
Minnesota is pairing with Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. But yeah, I think in terms of depth, shoot, they got James Washington still with the Steelers,
Yeah,
although there are rumors circulating that he might be on the outs, but
yep.
they're deep, bro. They're super deep.
As we see Mike
So
Davis off the board, which kind of a punch to my gut, but go ahead.
I want to check your gauge here. I'm going to let you kind of know. I'm going up and I'm going to grab a receiver with my next pick here. Who are you looking at here? I know we both love Robbie Anderson, but if I'm looking for a player in this tier that's got upside, but still a good floor, who is that? Because I would say Robbie Anderson doesn't present the massive upside. I think he's just very solid week to week.
Uh, yeah, I mean, I would say Jamar Chase as well as Chase Claypool, but I do know you just selected Deontay
Mhm.
Johnson, so I say Jamar Chase or DJ Chark would be the two guys I would look at. Um, Outside of that, I think there's, like you said, a lot of good receivers left, but maybe not that kind of high upside type value as well.
Yeah, and I am looking for team diversification here. I want to stray away from grabbing another Browns player, which is going to
Oh,
get me away from taking a guy like Odell Beckham, especially because it isn't a pass happy offense.
yeah,
I do think Jamar Chase is probably the best guy there for the type of scenario I'm looking for.
yep.
Although, I mean, there are some other people. I mean, you look at a guy like a Robbie Anderson, again, that's a solid base floor. Odell Beckham is kind of the only other guy, though, that has the high upside. But that injury history, man, that's scary.
Yeah, yeah. I think Jamar Chase is the right pick there.
I'm
As
happy with
I
my receivers there. That's good. So,
Yeah, I think potentially you definitely still got two number one receivers after going RB heavy and solidifying the tight end position. So I think it's a great start to your draft as I need to start selecting any running back who might be handed a football this coming year. So um, I've got a couple guys lined up as we see Trey Sermon and Odell Beckham off the board. So I'm going to go with maybe not like the most exciting pick, but a very safe pick. Actually, you know what? Screw it. I'm going Ronald Jones a second.
oh,
Yeah,
okay. So
yeah,
what was the reason for your change there? I saw you saw the floor of Damian Harris, but you
yeah.
said I'm going Ronald Jones. What was that there?
I'm just thinking of a more explosive offense, and I think Ronald
Mhm.
Jones is going to be in a more explosive offense. And actually seen more people pass on Damian Harris than I have seen go out and
It might
snag.
fall to you.
Yeah, so I think Ronald Jones is a little bit more of an attractive name, so I just want to shore him up, make sure he's on my roster, and let us know in the comments down below while you're going ahead and smashing the like button, subbing to the channel. Uh, Who are you going after, Leonard Fournette or Ronald Jones? Because I have this, we talked about this in our NFC South podcast. I just have a weird feeling that during the regular season, once again, we're going to see Ronald Jones. But I surely think your
Mhm.
guess is as good as mine because I think Leonard Fournette, proved himself in the playoffs, and maybe they'll start the year handing the ball to uh, Leonard Fournette a little bit more. So Leonard Fournette, someone I drafted last year, and he made fun of me all year, and I wasn't exactly wrong. I was just wrong in the fantasy perspective, but
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
so I guess it was. As we've seen, Damian Harris selected with the 72nd overall pick, so he did not fall to me. But I've got some guys lined up here I'm still happy about. So, yeah, let us know. And I don't know if you have any thoughts at the moment on that, Stephen, on that Tampa Bay backfield, but I think it's a pretty good gamble.
For sure, for sure. I think if you're looking at Ronald Jones, he is by far the most talented back on this team,
Yeah,
has the biggest upside. Leonard Fournette did specifically say if he came back to Tampa, he wanted a bigger role. He wanted to be that guy he was in Jacksonville. So Bruce Arians, we'll see if he actually cares about that, though. I mean,
yeah,
Bruce Arians is going to do what's best for the team. I actually
absolutely.
think Ronald Jones is the number one guy.
Yeah,
So good pick.
yeah. So I mean, just under 1,000 rushing yards last year and 7 touchdowns, one receiving touchdown last year, while Leonard Fournette last year only 367 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns. So, but one played more than the other. So part of me wants to just draft Leonard Fournette here, and that way I have both of them. But I'm going to go ahead and take James Robinson, another handcuff situation. So that is one thing, if you do go receiver heavy early, especially if you're going to go receiver heavy and draft a QB and or tight end, you're going to have to bet on some of these handcuff situations, which can be very risky. Yet it does present a lot of upside. It's a gamble, but if you get the right side of it, you're going to be very fortunate in your fantasy season. As Steven is on the clock with the 79th overall selection.
Yeah. So as this draft is going, I'm seeing the receivers get thin, but this is still an area of need for my team. Jerry Judy, I think I am going to take him here and really just hope that the switch to Teddy Bridgewater, which I think is an benchable play, is going to work out for him. I'm hoping.
That's my sleeper. That's my guy on my board that
Yeah.
no one is supposed to take. I as
Yeah.
someone I was eyeing in this draft, so I think Jerry Judy is going to present the number one receiver value on that Denver Broncos team, regardless of Bridgewater quarterback. Or Drew Lock at quarterback. I think he's going to have a better year than Cortland Sutton. It's not a knock on Sutton whatsoever. But I think Jerry Judy, whether Sutton's on the field or he's not, is going to have the better overall fantasy year. So I think it's a great pick. Don't be surprised. I've talked about this a lot. If Jerry Judy is creeping up on draft boards as week one starts to approach, more and more mock drafts you do, you will see players going out and snagging him a bit early. As we have seen Aaron Rodgers off the board, Chase Claypool, Leonard Fournette, Noah Fant of that same Denver Broncos offense, and now I'm starting to sweat as David Johnson is off the board, and I still need some more freaking running backs. And like I just talked about, I'm going to have to be going pretty much more than likely full handcuff situations
Hmm.
here. So
For
uh,
sure.
keep that in mind. That's why mock drafts are here. That's why we are here to do mock drafts for you guys, is to put ourselves in these positions and get a realistic outlook on, what these strategies entail. And I'm someone who loves a solid tight end on the team. I still think there's a lot of good tight ends left, but I'm sitting here with no tight end, sweating at the RB position, uh, you know, and it's kind of affecting my draft. So it's a good representation of what this receiver heavy strategy can do for you. But I will say, I think I have a stud QB, and I think I have three very, very elite receivers, as well as one very, very elite running back. So it could definitely be worse.
Yeah, so I'm on the clock now. Tom Brady, Ryan Tannehill. I think it is time for me to take a quarterback here that's going to give me a stable presence week over week. But the thing is I think both these guys can do so much more than that.
Yeah.
I am going to go ahead and take Tom Brady though, and the
Yep.
reason for that: great schedule this season, bona fide weapons anywhere you look, and it's Tom Brady. I do think this is a guy who might be in the MVP talks this year. So I'm going to take him. And you know what? I'll hint at it. I might be taking a quarterback at the back half of the draft, like a Trey Lance or Justin Fields, to give me that upset
Or a
too.
Tua.
No, not a Tua. Not a
I'm
Tua.
just going to go ahead and take Melvin Gordon here. I think it's the safest pick and a little bit of upside presented there. I was looking at Michael Carter there from the New York Jets, but we'll live, and we'll survive with a Melvin Gordon. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys are thinking about Melvin Gordon as well and his value. In these kind of later rounds, as I'm still eyeing a couple more handcuff situations, and I am very bothered because I also really want to draft a tight end. So, uh, I don't hate the receiver heavy strategy. I think in PPR leagues it's definitely very beneficial. But for example, I'm looking at Steven's roster, and I think it holds much more value with those earlier selections of running backs. And when you look at guys like Deontay Johnson, Jamar Chase, and Jerry Jeudy, I still think they present receiver number one strategy. So I'm more, attuned to the running back heavy type of strategy. But that is why these mock drafts are here to kind of help us solidify what type of strategy we want as week one draws closer. So in this eighth round, we have seen a couple defenses go. Top of round nine, Juju Smith-Schuster off the board. I think that's a great value in round nine. I still think Juju's going to have a relatively good year.
Yeah,
So,
I
and
was just looking at him, man. I mean, I
yeah,
had already taken Deontay Johnson, but dude, Juju is being slept on to a certain
yeah,
degree. I mean,
yeah.
he's the
I
red zone
think
threat, like you said.
Well,
No,
especially
go
in
ahead, man. It's
eh,
just,
well,
it's,
just in standard leagues, especially like I think he's going to have a very good year in terms of scoring. So I think in standard leagues, he's definitely a receiver to kind of target in those later rounds.
yeah, I do like him, and him and Big Ben do have a great rapport and relationship. So
Yep,
I think that does mean something as well. And he's a pretty solid player in terms of he's always going to be there in the run game
yep,
because he's such a good blocker. So you're going to see a lot of utilization and a lot of on the field play from this guy.
absolutely. So part of me wants to take Ryan Tannehill here, just to have two like kind of stud QBs, but I've got to stick to my guns here. I'm going to pick Kenyon Drake. My last handcuff situation, I think I'm going to get on the day. The running backs look very thin. I don't think James Conner will slide out of round 9 and round 10. So for myself, it's all tight end. Receiver from here, and then maybe a running back towards the end if there's someone who presents good value. So, not totally, I do like this team I've put together with this specific strategy, but definitely a little bit of a gamble, a little bit of a question mark around these running backs on my bench. But it could be worse. Could definitely be worse. So Steven is on the clock, picking Ryan Tannehill. Talk me through that selection.
It's an auto pick.
Oh, really? Well, hey, I think it.
Yeah.
I think it's a great selection actually
Yeah.
because, like you talked about, both Tom Brady and Ryan Tannehill, have a potential to have MVP
Mm.
like years. Ryan Tannehill is going to tear up that division there, and I think Tom
Yeah, he
Brady
is.
has a chance to as well. So, I actually think looking at your roster, which I think is very strong. I think it's a good selection in terms of just adding value at the position and also in terms of adding value to your roster overall. Now you don't have to worry about streaming a quarterback week 9 when Tom Brady, is on bye week, and hey, we have seen some struggle, from Tom Brady. We saw it early last year. Uh, if he's going through a rut, then you got Ryan Tannehill, right? So I think it's a good selection, even if you didn't mean to do so. So,
No, and I say auto pick, but here's the thing, man. He was starting to fall, and I did say when I took Tom Brady that I was going to be circling back for another type or another quarterback.
yeah,
I was probably going to wait another round, but Ryan Tannehill is very attractive as a late round quarterback
yep,
because this guy is a part of one of the best offenses next year potentially, and
absolutely,
he is going to face some really poor defenses, some really poor teams. It's just going to be juicy matchups week over week. I want to be a part of that.
Yeah. As we see, round 10, some good players off the board. James Conner, big Rob Gronkowski of that Tampa Bay offense, and then Will Fuller out of Miami. And now AJ Dillon off the board as well, as Stevens' pick in round 10 is starting to
Mm-hmm.
creep up slowly. And if you take Robert Tonyan, oh, well, never mind, you can't, because Drew took Robert Tonyan, which is a huge punch to my gut. So we will see what Steven does here. The
So
anticipation is
yeah, I'm
building.
looking. I am in love with Devontae Smith with Philadelphia, and his injury right now is, I think, pushing him so far down the draft boards. I'm
Yep.
going to take a shot, and I'm going to take him because it's a 2 to 3 week injury.
Yeah.
And I've been hearing positive things about it. And I think when he does get back, this is the surefire number one receiver. And I
Yeah.
do think he has a good season. So really, I'm just banking on the recovery from this guy.
Yeah. When I made that kind of shorter video on receivers who have kind of stocks rising as week one starts to draw closer. That was someone I wanted to include in that video because I do believe he has the potential to be the number one receiver in Philly. I just kind of held off because coincidentally the news of his injury came out that day. We didn't know too many
Mm-hmm.
details about it. So I think it's a great selection. I'm going to go and take my guy, Mike Gesicki here. So kind of one of the fallouts of going receiver heavy early on is, I kind of felt like I had to shore up the running back position. And if I didn't have to do that, I would have taken a tight end like a Robert Tonyan a little bit earlier. And, I would probably be feeling a little bit better overall at the tight end position. Also, Antonio Brown being selected right before Mike Gesicki, those are the two guys I kind of had valued as the best
Yeah.
players available. So I'm still happy with Mike Gesicki as my number one tight end, but I do also like, at this point with the tight ends available, going out and getting two of them, getting a Robert Tonyan and a Mike Gesicki. But I'll survive. I think I'm still building a pretty good roster here, as I only have two selections until my next, or excuse me, yeah, two more selections until my next pick. So looking at the running backs available, I just don't see great value there. So
Mm-hmm.
for me personally, I'm probably going to just be selecting the best player available.
Available. Yep. And you were on the clock. So
Yeah,
who is that best player available to
yeah.
you?
There's not a lot. It's looking pretty thin here. So
I know you like Jarvis Landry more than I do.
yeah, and I just don't think I need to draft a receiver right now. So I'm going to go out. There's two guys that I like here, and I might be surprising people with this pick, but I'm going to take J.D. McKissick. The other guy I liked is Naheem Hines, who I
I think
was
you should have taken him.
yeah, I was kind of hovering there, and I like both of them a lot. I think there's a lot of competition in both backfields, and I think it also just kind of follows shoring up the RB position. That's the last running back I can draft. So this is also kind of a good look of whether you're going tight end, receiver, QB early, receiver heavy early. But you do get one of those, first top selections, and you go out and get a guy like a Kamara, Henry, CMC, Dalvin Cook, whomever it may be in those top kind of 4 or 5 selections. This is a good look. At what you're going to end up with at the running back position, right? Guys
Mhm.
like Ronald Jones, James Robinson, Melvin Gordon, Kenyon Drake, and J.D. McKissick, or Naheem Hines, right? So this is a good look, of what entails of doing those strategies at the running back position. So you went ahead and got our boy Mooney, I see, with the
Yeah,
127th overall pick. Talk me through
my
that.
favorite. Yeah, he's my favorite wide receiver sleeper in next year's draft. I just think this guy is a diamond in the rough, man. This guy was so explosive. There's so many highlights of him just torching the best DBs in the league, torching Jalen Ramsey. He's got superior speed. There was his year last year, and especially the back half of the year. He was just dynamite. And
Yeah.
if he had a better quarterback to hit him, I think his numbers would have even backed it up even more. But this guy, if you get him this late in the draft, target him, and I'm telling you, especially when Justin Fields touches the field, this is gonna be a winner.
Yeah, no, you're very big on Mooney this year, which is still funny to me just because he was kind of a running like inside joke for our league last year, being on your one of your mom's hot waiver wire additions. She was really excited about, but he had a pretty good year last year overall. So,
Yeah.
uh, at this point, as we see Hunter Henry off the board, someone who I just added to my queue. Hunter Henry is someone who's I'm starting to, my personal stock in him is starting to rise quite a bit. I do think he's going to see more targets at the tight end position than Johnny Smith is. But I think both of them are kind of sneaky value, whether it's Cam Newton or Mac and Cheese or boy Big Mac throwing the
Hmm.
ball this year. So I do think at this point in the draft, especially if you already have a tight end you're very confident in, I do think they're of good value. As we see Naheem Hines off the board, Latavius Murray, as well as Jason Sanders, Miami's kicker, off the board, and Steven is now on the clock.
Yep. So I'm going to go back to wide receiver here, take another upside guy. In between my upside players of potential, I've got Michael Pittman, Jalen Waddle, or Mike Williams. I'm going to take Michael Pittman with the Indianapolis Colts. So a bit of a homer for me, but in my opinion, he's the actual number one, and it's not even close on this Colts team. T.Y. Hilton's past his prime. Not really. I don't really care a ton who is at quarterback because I think this is a guy who showed that he was going to be breaking out very soon at the back half of last year.
Yeah, so every player I had on my queue has been selected. Um, So I am going to make a move here that I think a lot of fantasy owners will probably hate, but I'm going to take a guy who I think has very good PPR value
Oof,
in
oof.
in Evan Ingram. Uh, Not a lot of upside in terms of scoring ability, but if you're looking at the draft board right now, it's pretty dry. This is a good representation of what things should look like in round 12 of a 12-man league. I can tell you, I was shaking my head pretty aggressively. You didn't see me when you said upside receiver because I thought you were going to take Mike Williams. I like the selection of Michael Pittman there, regardless of who the quarterback is in that offense. But
Mm-hmm.
then my next top two guys after Hunter Henry were Michael Gallup, Mike Williams. So I got hung out to dry there, and sometimes you don't have a lot of time to make the
It
selection.
happens, man.
So,
Yeah, that happens in
like I
fantasy.
said, I did want another tight end on this team. So I'll take Evan Ingram. We'll hope and pray that Daniel Jones can play the quarterback position this coming year, and we'll hope and pray that in a
I wouldn't put too much money on that, man. Wouldn't put your life savings on that one.
yeah, I wouldn't either. But hey, I do think the PPR value for Evan Ingram is there, and not a lot else to choose from at the. I mean, go ahead while I'm making this selection. Who are you looking at on the draft board right
Yeah,
now? Because it's tough pickings out here,
yeah.
brother.
When you're looking who's left here, this is what you're doing. You're saying what's a big name guy that I might not get the potential to get when he's on the waivers, and you've got him up, Jalen Waddle. He's
Well,
kind of
I
the
did. I
last
just
one.
I
Yeah,
timed that perfectly. I hit the selection button
yeah.
right before you said it. Yeah.
Yeah, because that was who I had up there. Because you look at who's left and you're thinking, all right, who's the guy that's just basically off of name is not going to make it to waivers. I need this guy because he has the best chance to blow up and be a week one dynamite guy.
Yeah.
So now I'm looking at my open spots here. I'm sticking receiver, and I'm just going to kind of look at to see, all right, maybe who's got some good potential. I think Jalen Rager, our buddy that is a big Eagles fan, he said he's been kind of tearing it up in camp. I'm going to go ahead and double down on Rager. I've already got Devontae Smith because if Devontae Smith ends up being hurt a little bit longer, I've got the wide receiver one in Jalen Rager.
Yeah.
Not my favorite pick, I'll be honest, but this is a guy coming out of TCU who was absolutely lethal with his speed and could still be a big time player with Philly.
What do you think of Rashad Bateman? I haven't really personally asked you that question, but I'm interested to get those
Yeah,
thoughts.
yeah. I mean, I like him, right? But this Ravens offense, it's very hard for me to draft a wide receiver. I'll certainly be looking at guys when waivers clear. and just trying to kind of monitor it. But it's really hard for me to think week over week I could depend on a guy on this Ravens team. And
Sure.
when you're drafting a player, you want to know that you can at least rely on him. I mean, that's my takeaway, and I think that's a takeaway from a lot of fantasy experts out there is that this Ravens offense is just kind of gross at the receiver position.
Steven has officially graduated to fantasy expert
I mean, dude, I got
today
a mustache. I don't know if you can see it. It's coming in. It's coming
as he takes that sip of coffee. As we see the
in.
Denver Broncos taken at the top of the 14th round. I'm not going to lie, I've been in kind of panic mode. Like, I think this roster is pretty good overall, but I think realistically, I would be like not drafting a defense or a kicker. But I do think there's one or two defenses left that are good enough to draft. What are you thinking about? You've mentioned them before. What are you thinking about the Cleveland Browns defense this year? With Clowney there now. I mean, when you think about the Browns as a team, that's really the component that if they could become elite, just think about how scary they would be as an overall team. So I am interested to get your thoughts on the Cleveland Browns from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, I love them as a defense, non-fantasy wise, because I think they have a lot of the great pieces. The only reason I'm a little bit shy of taking them in my fantasy drafts is because they play the Steelers offense, the Ravens offense, and shoot, the freaking Bengals offense isn't no joke either. So you got to run 6 games a season where it's going to be, you're not facing easy competition, and the offense is always going to win. So here I'm taking a look at defenses. I'm basically just basically picking and playing. And I'm going to go with Miami. It goes between Miami and New England for me just to start off the season.
You're just trying to draft my defense, man.
Yeah, maybe I am. I'm trying to get a little bit of that Florida buzz, get some skin color, get some tan, you know what I mean?
Okay, okay. So
to go with my stash.
I do like I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to completely trash the defense and the kicker. I'm just going to build a roster. I'm going to draft Nelson Aguilar, who I think
Mhm.
can be the number one receiver in that New England offense. And I don't think I'm quite done yet. I am not. I would have drafted Miami there. And I think New England's a great pick. I think New Orleans is a relatively good pick, as well as the Chargers and possibly Buffalo as well. But one of these defenses will step up. It gives me, I've got time, even if you're drafting a week before the regular season, to kind of figure out what you're going to do
Mhm.
with these extra players. So I'm forfeiting the kicker. I'm forfeiting the defense. Let us know in the comments down below if you guys like absolutely hate that, if that's something that you don't want to see, if that's something that you've personally done before. Last year in our family, kind of close friend, fantasy league, I like completely bombed at the quarterback position during our draft. And at the end of the draft, I literally drafted 4 quarterbacks in a row and no defense and no kicker because I was so panicked. I
Yeah.
drafted Baker. I drafted Drew Lock. I was just like, I don't know what to do. I just wanted a
Throwing darts at a
quarterback.
dartboard. Yeah, throwing darts
Right.
at a dartboard.
And
And
go ahead.
that
Yeah.
prompts a question for me too
Yeah.
is let's say your fantasy leagues that you guys do 2 weeks out from the season, right? If that's what y'all do, maybe even a week out. John, do you feel like there's any value in maybe forfeiting a kicker or a defense like you're talking about and drafting a quarterbacks like a Trey Lance or Justin Fields that maybe right now aren't called the starter, but there's a chance they could be week one? I don't know
Yeah.
because these guys are still available right now and they're the kind of guys that win your league.
Yeah. I definitely think that I think it's a good strategy. Yeah. I think if it follows your roster and if you're not completely sure at the quarterback position, then yeah, I don't have any problem with that whatsoever. And kind of giving some more time to see if they're going to be announced as the week one starter or not. So, speaking of late round quarterbacks, this is what I'm doing in this draft. You talked about it. You want some more Miami in your life. So do I. It's Tua time, baby. Tua's on my yeah, on my roster paired with Kyler Murray. I'm all for it. We will see. This will be the great debate of our podcast of our fantasy. outlook as his channel. Will Tua have a good year or not? I'm behind him. Steven is not. So he is on my roster. I have no kicker. I have no defense, but I have got a hell of a lot of players on
Yes,
my
you
squad.
do.
So let's see what Steven does here with his final selection.
Hey, man, I'm going to take your guy, Rashawn Bateman. Sure it up, go after it. And, in a situation like my team where I have Mark Andrews already, I'd probably be even less inclined to grab him. But I do think he, like I was saying earlier, he poses the most upside that's still available in this draft board.
Yeah, I agree. That was the other person outside of Tua that I was kind of eyeing, but I'm actually pretty happy with these receivers. And Steven's just going to laugh at me, but let's say Tua turns out to have at least a decent year, and let's
Yeah.
say Jalen Waddle is that number one guy there. Well, then I've got both of them on this roster, and I've got Mike Gesicki, so I'm loaded up with some Miami frickin' summertime on this roster.
Mm-hmm.
As we see, Joel L with the final pick, Ryan Suckup of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who I actually think is a great kicker to be kind of targeting in your respective fantasy leagues. So I will go ahead and I will crack down my team for you guys. So uh, like I said, we went out with that number 4 overall pick, and we got Alvin Kamara at the running back position, and then we went a little receiver heavy. So outside of Kamara at the running back position, we've got Ronald Jones, the second out of Tampa Bay. A little bit of a gamble there, but Steven and I kind of both have faith in him, and I do think he's going to have, or at least be heavily utilized in that Tampa Bay backfield. Outside of that, we have got handcuffs all day. We've got James Robinson, Melvin Gordon, Kenyon Drake, J.D. McKissick. So a lot of gambles there, a lot of question marks, handcuff situations. But if these gambles work in our favor, this is a solid
For
roster.
sure.
In my humble opinion, at the quarterback position, we have got Kyler frickin' Murray, who's going to have a monster year in his third year under the helm in that offense. And, at the receiver position, I forgot I drafted Tua. At the quarterback position, Tua's my
Can't forget
backup.
that, bro.
I'm
Can't forget
confident
that.
with it. Tua time, baby. Let's go. At the receiver position, I've got my guy, DK Metcalf. We've got Keenan Allen, who's set for a prime year with Justin Herbert coming out in his second year. Julio Jones, future Hall of Famer, a great
Mm.
number 3 receiver to have on your fantasy squad. Then I've got Jalen Waddle, who has the potential to be the number 1 receiver in that offense, as well as Nelson Aguilar, someone who also has the opportunity to become the number 1 receiver in that New England Patriots offense. The tight end position, got my guy Mike Gesicki. I am happy with him as a number 1 tight end. Maybe not the best number 1 tight end, someone who I've been pairing as my number 2 tight end, but I'll still roll with it. We've got Tua time. It can't go any wrong. If Tua's
A
throwing
lot
him
of
the ball,
Dolphins players. A lot
a
of
lot of
Dolphins players in
Dolphins
this team.
players, kind of coincidentally. And outside of that, I do have Evan Ingram on this roster as well, who I think at the time when I drafted him presented the best PPR value in terms of
Mm-hmm.
who was left and who I thought would slide at the receiver position, with the running back position being completely dried up. So, kind of an interesting draft here. But like I said, that this is what these mock drafts are for, to put yourself in an uncomfortable position, and to kind of try out these different strategies and see what the result is. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on my roster you want to throw out there before you break down your team, but the floor is yours, my man.
Yeah, man. I think, and I want you to do this to my team as well. I think the biggest question mark I have around your team is just that you have a lot of concentration on Miami Dolphins. So, does Miami come out and do they outlive their expectations? As well as, does do players like Ronald Jones, does he take over that workload?
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, when I look at this team, I see a ton of talent at the receiver position, and you get a guy like Kyler Murray. That's awesome. I think you did a good draft right there.
Yeah, I think in terms of receiver heavy, and like I said, let us know down below what you consider receiver heavy. I'm relatively happy with this squad overall. So let's take an evaluation at what Steven did here.
Yeah, so I was really happy with this draft. I went back to my bread and butter running back approach. With my first three picks, taking Nick Chubb, Najee Harris, David Montgomery. That kind of put me in a position where I can kind of let's take a break from the running backs for a while, just start loading up on the other skill guys. I went back and I took Mark Andrews. I think Mark Andrews is an absolute dog in the red zone. Get to be on one of the best offenses in the league. It's a no brainer for me, even though it's a little bit early to take a tight end. And then I go down and I start looking at receivers, going at Deontay Johnson, Jerry Judy, Jamar Chase. These are three guys that I think can be certified number two, number one receivers, which is what you're really kind of aiming for, that number two type of receiver when
Yeah,
you have a running back heavy strategy.
sure.
But then after that, I did sure up. I have Ryan Tannehill and Tom Brady at quarterback. Both their fantasy projections, as you can see right there on the board, they're like equivalent. I mean, they're both like 350. Both these guys have easy schedules, and both of them are on lethal offenses. And I think that's something for the subscribers to pay attention to is maybe mean to take Ryan Tannehill, but if you can wait and draft a bunch of really good skill guys early in your drafts, you get the chance to pair up some quarterbacks late in your drafts, like a Ryan Tannehill, like a Tom Brady, and be very sure at that position.
Yeah,
And then for the rest of my draft, I just took upside and I took a bunch of receivers
yeah,
because I had gone running back heavy, taking Devontae Smith. Let's hope that injury works out. But if it doesn't work out, I got Jalen Rager, the other guy who's going to be with that Philly offense. I got Darnell Mooney, who I love, baby. I think his value is going to go to the moon. Not to be using any puns or anything. And then we got my guy, Homer fan, Michael Pittman, for sure number one threat with Indy. I think he's a big body dude that's going to see a lot of touchdowns this season, regardless if we got Jacob Eason or if we got the local janitor at quarterback. And then I took a dartboard throw, Rashad Bateman. Does he
yeah.
turn out well? I mean, shoot, Mark Andrews has had injuries. So Rashad Bateman might become the next guy, the number one threat outside for Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I think it's a good team overall. A lot of upside at the receiver position to kind of pair with Deontay Johnson and Jamar Chase, but really the bulk of this team is three uh, absolute studs at the running back position, an absolute stud at the tight end position, and two quarterbacks who will lead your team to a fantasy championship, in my personal belief. Well, one note on Tom Brady for Yahoo Fantasy, they have him projected to throw for over 5,200 yards next season, which is a lot
For
of
sure.
passing yards. I mean, I think it's a great projection. I think he definitely has the potential. I personally think Tom Brady has potential to have his best season of all time this coming year if he can stay healthy and if the rest of that offense can stay healthy as well. So that's my final thought on Tom Brady. So if this draft was in any way helpful, useful, entertaining in the sense that it's just very sad to watch Steven and I spend our time doing this, then go ahead and smash the like button down below, subscribe for more future content like this, and let us know in the comments what you think we could have improved. Let us know what you think we did well, and let us know what is the most helpful to you in your personal fantasy league as well. Let us know, what type of drafts do you guys want to see in terms of scoring formats? What type of drafts do you guys want to see in terms of 8, 10, 12 man leagues? Let us know. We are here for you guys. Steven, I'll throw it over to you for any final thoughts as well.
Yeah, so obviously we can kind of explore all the options that John said too, but some other ideas that we were thinking about doing as well. Like, what if you take a quarterback in the third round or something? How does that turn your draft? Or if you take in the second, even, I mean, your drafts can get crazy for whatever reason in a hurry. So there's all these kind of scenarios we can play out, and you can kind of know if you get stuck in that type of rut, or if you want to see, I want my favorite player is Patrick Mahomes. I want to have him on my team. Well, let's make sure you get him and still
Yeah.
build a good roster around your team. So these are all the kind of ideas we can do. And, just want to say thanks for all the support over these past few days, this past week, and hope you and your families are doing well. And guys, we're getting closer. Hall of Fame game under the belt. We got some more preseason games coming up. Keep your eyes glued on those preseason games. That's where you find some gems that we're going to discover on our videos as well. But have a good one. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and get ready for more content.
Fantasy football is on the way. Regular season football is on the way. We are freaking pumped, baby. Thank you all so much for watching and or listening. And remember, you saw it here on The Catch.
On The Catch.